Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Believe we're live now. I got Michael MacIntosh with me tonight, and we're gonna do a little catch up. I think the last one-on-one me and you did. I just looked back in my past videos. It was the Les Paul one. That was the last I think one-on-one that we did. That was like scheduled. So we got a lot to cover. A lot of catching up to do. How you been?
I've been very well. How have you been?
Can't complain. Uh,
Yeah,
just working too much, regular regular life, nothing too fancy.
yeah. I
What you
think
been up to?
we've probably all been doing the same thing. Working too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah. But if you're doing something that you love or enjoy, at least, then it's almost like not working at all. You know.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm not gonna lie. Recently, like within the last month, I've been dabbling a lot more in crypto and like
Oh, cool.
following it more because I've actually started to do some trading through the app that I use. And if you actually monitor them and keep track of them, you can actually make a little bit of profit.
Yep.
I pay $1 every time I do my trades. So if I was to pull it out or to put it in anything, I have to pay 99 cents for all of the shares that I choose to do. But I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. It's like a little gambling game. And Bitcoin seems to be back on the rise.
Yeah, it does. It was nearly 29,000 a few days ago or a day ago or something. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's definitely on its way to 35K very soon, and I think it will be back to all-time highs before long.
yeah.
And
I think I redeemed 40% of my money back, like within the last 4 months or something like that. That I put in originally with Bitcoin.
yeah,
So it's definitely rising back up.
yep. And you know, if you're looking long term, it's going to be easily $1 million per Bitcoin um, in a few years, maybe
You think
sooner.
it'll eventually reach that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's undoubtedly going to hit $1 million. I think it will eventually go higher than that. Even I think it will be millions of dollars per Bitcoin, maybe even more than that.
Isn't there a cap on them, or does it not have a cap?
In what sense?
In what sense?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Well, because I know they have a production cap, which you had told me about before, but I didn't
Oh
know if
yeah,
there was
yeah.
a set rate that it couldn't go higher than.
Yeah, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins manufactured or mined, as the process is called, made. So that's the last one is not expected to be mined. I think it's until 2140 or so.
140.
So
Wow.
yeah, so we have a good 100 plus years left of uh, Bitcoin mining. If you are interested in getting into that as an industry or a business,
I mean,
I
now's the
think
time to do it when it's low. That's for damn sure.
I think it will always be worth it in the if you look at it in the big picture. And if you start doing it and stick with it, it'll likely be profit for you for your lifetime and your children's lifetime and your grandkids. So it's a generational wealth builder, I think. And I think it's going to do that for a lot of people. It's already helped a lot of people to become successful or more successful. Of course, it has its ebbs, and right now we're in one of those moments where it's actually gone lower than it has. But I think it will recover, and in a short time being like 6 months, a year, 2 years at the latest. And I think it will be at all time highs when it gets back to that point.
I think the
So
highest I ever saw it was 65 or 68,000 area?
Yeah,
I think
it
that was
was
like
it was $69,000 approximately, and
I think now it's in the 23 range or
yep,
25,000
but
range.
20. It's like 28, 27. It was almost 29 just a day or two ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
thank you to
watch it.
everybody in the chat. Eric Carthage said hi, and West Haven said hi to us, and she
Hey
also shared
guys,
out this video. I appreciate you sharing.
how you all doing?
Hope
How are y'all
everybody's
doing?
well out there.
Do you guys know anybody else from Boston that says y'all?
No, that's your Texas going.
Yeah, that's it. I spent too much time in Florida. Actually, that was it. It's like
I don't know.
horrible.
I don't get the accents in Florida. I feel like
Mm.
Florida's too modernized now. It's just where that we send all of our retired.
Mm. Yeah, that's pretty much all I did down there was retire for a little while.
So, what'd you do when you were out there? What part of Florida?
Um, well, in high school, I lived in Tampa for a little while, and my dad was working down there. And later on, my wife and I went to the Daytona area to just hang out and calm down a bit. And we worked on a bunch of music down there. And some of it you can hear on the internet, actually, at this point. But we recorded a lot of stuff, and we've put it in various finished productions. It's almost like a montage of different sessions, and like looking at my music catalog at the moment, and it's almost like a montage of different times and places depending on the recording.
It makes
And
sense. I mean, when you're putting together an album, I mean, what's going on in the world and with you at the time, I mean, is really going to reflect in the album. I mean, there's no way you would. It's almost like a time capsule, to be honest, like
it
a
can
picture
be, yeah.
back of that time.
Yeah, it can be.
Hey, Emily. Hello, Terry. And
We've got a lot of
hello,
Florida in
Canadian
our stuff,
Patriot.
though.
Hello, everybody. Terry said, I time traveled just to be here tonight.
Oh, well, welcome to, what year is it? 2023. Welcome to now, from wherever you
Welcome to
were.
the now.
Um, I have not done any of that lately, as far as I'm aware. I've just been here in my boring, relatively ordinary life as a music producer and musician. So that's all. I've not been involved in any sort of projects or anything like that, other than pretty mundane stuff, really.
So, out of curiosity, what sign are we looking at behind you?
I'm sorry?
What sign are we looking at behind you?
It's just an ad. It says, I'll read it. It says, Michael MacIntosh. Listen on Tidal, iTunes, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, Spotify, and everywhere music is streamed. MacintoshuSA.org and YoungAstronautsClub.com.
Nice.
That's all it says. Those are going to be. That's going to be a poster that we're going to be distributing in various, well, flyer actually, in various locations, various cities, to promote what we're doing on the internet, basically. And hopefully that will also bring attention to some of the other stuff that we've been talking about. But
I think it's interesting though that both of your ventures are kind of they have their own lanes, and I think you're becoming something in both of them. Like they don't necessarily have to intertwine for success in either. You know, like it's unique that you can do that. where it doesn't have to be like, oh, I became famous for being the time travel guy or whatever. I became famous as a musician, and then this crossed over. Like it
Mm.
seems like you developed both of them from kind of the beginning, and or
Mm.
at least exposed it to the world from the beginning, and then eventually people found out about both sides of what you do.
Yeah, well, I've had a band since the '90s, and it still exists. It's just sort of on like COVID kind of put it on hiatus, on at least on the back burner a bit. But the band has got really successful a long time ago at this point, and even though you know even though I didn't put my name on it or anything, it was just the band. It was Young Astronauts Club. Um, it's still I was still already kind of famous from that, Um, so I'm kind of used to like public, like being known in the public already anyway, because I was before I started making videos about oddball stuff like time travel. I was already known as the guy from that band. I mean, I couldn't walk down the street in Boston without people, like from the time I was a kid. I couldn't walk down the street in my hometown without people bothering me for not bothering me, but like recognizing me for my work in music. So it's kind of like I'm sort of used to that. But yeah, I didn't start putting out music under my own name as a solo person until the COVID thing hit, because I was always just part of a band. And um, but I just figured, like, why not just put stuff under my own name as well, because I was making solo stuff anyway, because I couldn't do anything with my band, because um, we're all over the place at this point geographically, and we couldn't like get together to work on anything. We didn't really want to use technology to do it. I think we're kind of tired of doing that anyway. We've been doing that kind of stuff already before
Yeah.
COVID. And just the idea of doing it again was just kind of boring, honestly. So I think we're just going to wait until we can get it all together into the same space and actually just play together. So I don't know when that's going to happen. It's not scheduled or anything, but I have been writing stuff for that purpose. So
Right.
maybe we'll use some of it.
So let me ask you another question, kind of diving into what you were talking about. Like, if you've had this attention from a young age, how do you think it's structured the way that you are in front of people? Do you Because I've never really thought of you as like, I don't know, like the class clown or like the person that wants all the attention all the time.
Hmm.
You seem to be more of a soft spoken guy. You don't really you're not really jumping on a platform and saying, "Hey, look at me." Like you've never
Yeah.
really been that guy as long as I've talked to you. So
Hmm.
the attention that you were getting when you were younger, how do you think that like shaped how you are like today? Do you think it kind of burned you out of people? Do you think you wanted to be on the internet more? Do you think it made you like seclude more? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I have, we made like documentary videos and stuff of the band and band performances and all kinds of craziness back then. And you're talking like when we were really starting to get bigger in like the late '90s. I was out to lunch, man. I was crazy. Like I couldn't. Looking at that person I was then, I'm just, who is that? It's not. I'm not even the same person anymore. Um,
What
I
do
was
you
not.
mean by like crazy? Like just outgoing personality, just out real late all the time, partier? Like, what do you mean by?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're in the limelight like that as a performer or whatever, and especially with music, you're kind of expected to keep up this. because for most people, being in that type of environment is like they're only in it for like the night, for the show. They're going to the gig or whatever, and they're buying the CD. And it's your job, really. Your job is to keep them entertained, and like they're paying their hard-earned money to have a good time and enjoy the show and have fun afterwards and everything. And often, you know, if you're in the band, you end up in that environment after the show. And you know, if you're playing all the time, or at least playing shows regularly, you're in that environment like a lot more often than everybody else, because they're gone home and they're gone back to their job and they're watching TV and at night with their kids and or their parents. And
You could be doing a show the next day for a whole different
yeah,
crowd.
you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and you kind of like unless you're careful, you can really lose touch with reality that way, and it just becomes this like eventually you can kind of just burn yourself out. It becomes like a spiral downward. You have to just stop after a point and take stock of what you're doing and take a rest, you know.
Do you know who the celebrity Steve-O is? Have you heard of him from like the Jackass series?
It's possible. It sounds familiar.
He's actually he grew up in England. Well, he was born in the U.S. and his mom was English, and so he like grew up with an accent. But he was always considered like the party guy of their group. He was the guy that was ready to rage and do all these things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you were talking about with the shows, they would go around and do this performance for people all across the states. And so he would be that guy that he'd try to chug a bottle of Jack Daniels every single night to impress the audience. Like he eventually burned himself out. Now he's 100% sober, and he's got a whole new act. He still does the pain gimmick of Jackass, like hurting yourself for laughs, but he doesn't do it internally now. It's not an internal battle as much anymore. Like he knows when to turn it off. But yeah, like that always reminds me of when artists say, you know, you're doing the same thing all the time, and eventually, like if it's something that you can't keep up with, it'll catch up with you.
Oh yeah, you do just burn out. I mean, it's like, I mean, I did that whole. I was pretty boring as a teenager. Like honestly, I was kind of a nerd, and I really liked to study music, and I was really into jazz and classical, and I really learned how to actually play music and play the instrument and write and compose and stuff. But when I hit like when we really started playing concerts, playing shows when I was like 17, and right up until I was like 19, early 20s, it just as it moves forward, it just got really crazy up to a point. And then by the time I was 25, and that's still a young age, you know, I was burnt out. I mean, I was really burnt out. And that was the year, I was like mid 2000, early 2000. I was like 25, and like I had a really serious like nervous breakdown. And at that point I realized that I had to stop what I was doing or I was literally going to die. And that's when I kind of started to really focus on getting away from that whole thing and just being more of a musician and focusing my attention back onto being just a good musician. And started to really, you know, take care of my health better and take care of myself spiritually and mentally and every other way. And by the time I was 27, I was completely done with all of that whole thing, and just really wanted to focus on making better music, and from that point onward, that's what I've really done. And I mean, I'm nearly 50 now. It's like I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year, and having having changed my focus at that point in my life, I think has helped me to really make a lot of my better music, and people seem to appreciate that uh, more than certainly the music that I did before that.
Do you
It's
think?
almost like there's a there was old me, and then there's me after a point, and it's like two different people. It's just really two different people.
During that transition,
Mhm.
or prior to that,
Mhm.
um, did you start discovering religion and how it was going to have an impact on your life? Was it around that time where you were going through a breakdown and kind of a refresh, or has it always been around, kind of instilled by family, or did you
Yeah,
stumble
I
upon it
was.
in your later years?
Hmm. Well, I wasn't. I mean, there's religion in my family, but uh, I was never really an adherent to any of it. I kind of rejected most of it, or if not all of it, when I was really young. By the time I was, 8 years old, I didn't want to be part of any religion really. And so from that point, I kind of was fairly agnostic. I didn't really believe in any religion. I didn't want to follow any religion. And I kind of always thought that if I was going to find answers to stuff, it would be through the realm of science. So I kind of immersed myself in that kind of study to really try to seek answers for things. And, honestly, like a lot of science that's out there today, up to today, is still, it just seems really theoretical, a lot of it. And there's not really solid answers in any of it.
Well,
And some,
is that your punk side, that the rebellious side that didn't want to be involved with, I don't know, the construct of religion? Is that why you kind of pushed against it?
um, it might be, honestly. I mean, I have some punk rock roots, I guess. My
I mean, those were your starting groups, weren't they? I thought that's what you had said to me. You kind of started out in like the punk scene, but you
well,
said you
yeah,
started out with classical music, like learning classical. But after that,
yeah,
your first
yeah.
band.
I definitely was corrupted by punk rock. Um, like when I was like a teenager, I rediscovered actually the Sex Pistols and stuff, and
I just feel like that's such a healthy thing, though. Like
mm,
uh, that's something that punk rock actually did for me. Is it's that idea
mm,
that you can question things. You can say that some establishments aren't done right.
mm,
It doesn't mean that you're a rebel and you're never going to fit in society. It just means you don't like the way society is structured and you want to say something about it. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that's what original punk rock was to me, was people talking against the Queen and stuff like that back in back in the early
mhm,
'50s and mid '60s.
yeah. That's for sure what it was at the time, and I think that has continued up to today. I mean, you say a lot of people say that that spirit is dead, but I mean, I think it's more alive now than ever. It's just not recognized in mainstream media anymore. I mean, the Sex Pistols were the top of the charts in England and stuff. Like they actually went to number one in the charts. People don't know that, but they were censored from, like they were basically blacklisted as soon as they hit number one. They were like out of the charts, and it was like, oh, that never happened. But so
I feel like that's done with, well, in the Sex Pistols.
mm,
I mean, they they had they were more publicly known than some of the big figures that I think of in like uh, punk music. Like being a foothold in punk music, I was trying to explain to my girlfriend the other day who Gigi Allen was, and
Mm.
she was
Yeah.
like, "So are any of his songs good?" And I was like, "Well, no." I was like, "I probably don't like a single one of his songs." And she was like, "Well, what does he do?" And I was like, "Well,
Mhm.
he's like a mixture between a homeless man, the band Guar, and Steve-O from Jackass. Like he'll just fight people on stage, or he'll show up in his underwear. He'll throw poop at people. He'll he'll urinate
Mm.
on the crowd. I'm like, it's not music, but he beat the hell out of the idea of being a punk group or just punk person. Like I've never seen somebody make so much money off of not doing any music. They called themselves an artist. Like,
Yeah. Well, uh, my girlfriend from high school, like this girl that I was dating for years, um, she's now married to the bass player of Gigi Allen's band. So
oh wow, interesting.
yeah, so it's like, I mean, Gigi was from New Hampshire, so
He was
we
what?
he was from New Hampshire, and he played a lot in the Boston area. So we kind of crossed paths a bit, but I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
know
I
him.
feel like they'd play wherever somebody would let them. They were usually small venues.
Yeah, they were definitely small venues. Actually, this band that I played with opened for Gigi Allen. So
Yeah,
yeah, so yeah,
I
you could
feel
say
like he's one of those staples. Like Sex Pistols were a lot more mainstream. They were, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people didn't know about Sex Pistols. I mean, Gigi Allen, like they knew about the Sex Pistols, or like Sid Vicious, or like there were so many other people out there that were considered celebrities in the punk realm, I guess.
Mhm.
Sorry, my
Yeah,
phone's ringing. Sorry about that. Ooh.
that's okay. That's cool. It, yeah, he was quite a figure in certainly in the New England Boston punk community. I didn't think very much of him, frankly, but I understand. You know, he's quite notorious at this point, and probably rightfully so. I mean, he was kind of crazy. You know, he really didn't.
Yeah.
He really pushed the limits as far as what freedom of expression is. So I
So
guess that was good. But
let me ask you let's go through some artists and we'll see where you would classify them because I'm like I know you like the Flaming Lips. You've talked about them before, and other New York bands that were a little more punk and around your time that you actually listened to. The Flaming Lips are still around and everything. They just don't produce as much anymore.
yeah,
Wasn't that one of the
um,
bands that you had said?
I do
Or
like
am I
them,
thinking?
but I didn't really pick up on them until probably much later. But let's see, when I was starting off, I was really into, for instance, like the Bad Brains. Have you heard of them?
I haven't heard of the Brad Brains. They're the ones from Chicago you were telling me about, right?
They're from, well, I think they're originally from Maryland, but they kind of are known to have, like, known as a DC band, like a Washington DC band.
Or there was
But
some punk band that you were telling me about recently that you wanted me to
hmm,
look into. I think within the last month or so. I had
well,
to double check back and see what it was. But like,
Fugazi.
where would you put like what's his face, like a Billy Idol? Like where would he sit on like closer to punk, closer to rock, or just celebrity? I guess.
I mean, I guess he really does kind of have punk roots. He was in a band in England called Generation X, which I think were definitely a punk rock band. Um, but you know, when he went solo and all that, he definitely veered towards rock and pop for sure. Maybe even some metal, but still kind of retained that, probably that rock spark.
Okay. Let me
And
give
his,
you one that most people would put in the rock genre, and I want to know what you know about him and where you think you would place him. What about Rob Zombie?
okay, well, he's another. Massachusetts guy, actually. He's from Lowell, Massachusetts.
Yes, he is. And his brother plays for Power Man 500. He's the
That's right. Yeah,
guitarist for them.
my band.
Spider Zombie.
Yeah, when I was like at 19, my band opened for those guys at a place called the Rat in
Oh, really?
Boston.
Okay.
Yeah, was it the Rathskeller? It was the long name of it, but that was like it's a pretty renowned club in the annals of punk rock history. I mean, a lot of bands came out of there that became really big, like the Cars, for instance. That was like one of the first places they played. Um, and like Metallica played there, the Police played there. You know, it's like really big bands that became really big later on.
I didn't realize the Police played out there. I didn't say Police. I mean, well, I guess that happens at a lot of venues. They eventually get, those like the Whiskey a Go Go. If you ever look at like their lineups that they had
Yeah.
back in the day, it was insane.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
some of the stuff that they were doing in Hollywood or around that area in California, just the amazing bands that they had developing at the time that they never would have known were going to be some of the biggest groups in the world. Like you had the Beatles and the Doors playing down the street from each other, and like just weird stuff. Well, not
Yeah.
no, it wouldn't have been the Beatles. The Beatles didn't come to the U.S. yet, I don't think. But that it was in the Doors movie. They were showing some of the other artists that were just out there with them at the time, and it was just all of these up and coming people that eventually made it very, very much mainstream, and they were all
Mhm.
at like the Whiskey a Go Go and other what would be considered big venues now. Back in the day, were just there was your dive bar that people would go
Oh
to
yeah,
listen to music.
absolutely. They were definitely. I mean, the Rat, for instance, in Boston, it's a legendary place. It's like the CBGBs of Boston, which is also now closed. But um, so many bands came out of there, and it was a huge hotspot for punk and post-punk and new wave and just the weird stuff. And
We've had so many good bands
but
just that I've seen personally at the House of Blues in Chicago. Can't
mm,
imagine like if you ever look at like the whole track record of a venue that's been around for a real long time.
mm,
I wonder what those hidden gems are. It's like that sounds like one that you're talking about that is a hidden
yeah,
gem out in Boston.
was it? I was gonna say it was such a dive. I mean, the walls were like you wouldn't even want to touch them. It was just gross, and like
It sounds like a
the,
good dive bar.
the bathrooms. It was like you were risking your life going to the bathroom there. You know what I mean? It was that like you couldn't. I don't even want to tell you how gross it was. It was that gross, you know. But we played there a bunch before it closed down. Young Astronauts Club was one of the last bands to ever play there, actually, and it closed shortly after. It was just like one thing after another for them, business wise, and it just kind of they closed it down temporarily, and then they just decided
Was
to
that during
never open
COVID?
it back up. And
Was that during COVID that they closed it down, or was it?
oh no, this was years ago. This was you're talking like I think it might have been 1998 or something, actually. 1997 ish, late 97, I think. I'm guessing. I'm not sure. But I lived in the neighborhood, so I kind of knew what was going on there, and it was close to the area and close to the neighborhood. And I worked in that neighborhood actually, and I knew the people who like booked the place, and friends of mine hung out there and stuff. People I knew. Um, I actually worked at the record store right next door to it, so that's kind of how I like. There was a record store right next door to the Rat, and I worked in there. And but yeah, that was kind of like one of the first places that actually would allow my band to play because we were just so weird, you know. For
That'd be
like,
awesome to have the record store right next door, and then you could just push your records right next door right after you did a show.
yeah,
That'd be the way to go. At least
yeah,
locally, like for an up and coming local band.
yeah. Well, we did that. There was a few record stores around that neighborhood, and they would all our stuff, so that was kind of nice too. Um, and that's kind of how I got my record label started in like 1995. Um, and so we kind of just became this thing that was everywhere in Boston, at least. And then from there, we just kind of expanded outward. And we were already kind of, we were going up to Montreal and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and
Go
like
right past New York. Is that how you do it?
Hartford. Yeah, I didn't really want to go to New York that much. It didn't interest me until later, until I actually moved there. But I was definitely more interested in places like Chicago, Montreal, London, Dublin, like Tokyo. So we went like a really weird, we took a really weird map to getting the recognition that we ended up getting and the success that we ended up getting. But kids in Japan knew my band before kids in California.
Did you guys have a tour bus or a van stage where you guys were traveling a lot
Yeah,
when you first started out?
yeah, we had all that stuff, and I mean, it was a lot of like early on. We borrowed a lot of that stuff. It wasn't ours, but we like borrowed things, or rented it or whatever. And I never even owned like my own amp. I didn't own my own amplification. I would just like find something to use when I got to the show.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
that was going to lead me to my next question was how was your guys' dealings with like managers and stuff like that back in the day? Or did you guys represent yourself, or how did
yeah,
you do it?
we didn't we didn't use management. It was all self managed. Like we would have well, basically I was the head of the record label, so if people were contacting, like wanted to contact the band, they would contact me, or they would contact the record label being me as the head of it. So I would have like, very early on, I had a phone in my bedroom and answering machine, and I would be like just on it all day sometimes and taking messages and stuff. Um, that's kind of how we did everything from just that central kind of office, if you will, which was just a phone and an answering machine in my bedroom.
Well, that would work out. I mean, as long as you're doing the booking, then if you set it
Mm-hmm.
at the venue, then you could be like, all right, well, just have these amplifiers here, and we'll use the
Mm-hmm.
equipment that's there. You know.
Yep, yep. Or we would like, you know, I used to do this a lot. I would ask other bands that were on the bill if I could like use their amp and stuff, and most of the time, you're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Just
Yeah,
don't
some
blow
of
it
them
up.
have to pack it up as fast.
Yeah, just don't blow it up. Like, okay, I'll try not to.
Right, you're not one of those smashing artists, are you?
No, I just still have a tendency to play electric stuff really loud. So it's kind of that, if you play too loud, you can kind of blow an amp. But
Yeah,
fortunately, that never happened. Um, I did. I blew my own amp when I ended up using my own amp a few times, but you can get that fixed, and it doesn't upset anybody because you're not blowing up their stuff. But
yeah.
um,
If you're gonna risk it, then you might as well do it on your own.
yep.
Uh, Terry Hopper had a question for you. He said, "Is there any musical instrument that you haven't learned to play that you've always wanted to?"
Yes, there are probably maybe guitar. But I think with any instrument, you're always learning. I don't think you ever really get to the end of that. Even Eddie Van
You can
Halen.
always learn more, but like that you
Yeah.
haven't even picked up is what he's wondering. Like if you haven't even picked it up and tried it, you picked up and you can probably play some songs on the guitar, or at least some
Well,
chords.
yeah, I can. I'm kind of being facetious, but I mean, I'm kind of kind of an advanced level guitar player, but I still don't think of myself as, you know, as great of a musician as somebody like Eddie Van Halen or.
Well, no. None of us are going to be Prince overnight.
Mhm.
I mean, there's only so many people that can play the guitar like amazing like that, and they're always going to be, those amazing people. But I was kind of curious: are there any instrument like you ever been interested in the harp or anything like that, or have you played a harp? Like, are there any of those out there instruments that?
Yeah, probably some wind instrument, saxophone maybe. I don't know anything about saxophone.
Ooh,
So
that'd be a good one.
yeah, I'd like to learn how to do that, but that would take a long time.
Well, we'll set you up with Bill Clinton, and we'll get you some lessons, and have a presidential meeting about it.
Well, an uncle of mine is a session saxophone player. He's been one for years, and he's played with everybody from like Oasis to Van Morrison to Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, U2, Clannad, a lot of like British and Irish stuff. Um, and that's all he does. He's a saxophone player. It's all he's done for a job for years. And he's really a great musician. But I suppose I could talk to him and ask him how do I use this? How do I work this thing? I have no idea.
Like that's kind of how I felt. Like I would like to learn the saxophone and then the piano if I could. I think the
Hmm.
piano's got so much range. Um, if you learned that, it would be there's a lot you could do with it.
Hmm.
But let's see. Terry Hopper also said a phone and an answering machine in a bedroom is exactly how Nashville, Tennessee works.
Yep.
And Brett said I'll be worshiping tonight. Okay, I'll check it out later. He does a couple times a week. He does some group worship on his channel. Uh, Devout Christian, great young man, Brett. He's a nice guy. So if anybody wants to check out some worship tonight, Brett will be doing it. He'll be singing hymns for everybody. He goes on and just sings his heart out a cappella for everybody. He'll do it for like 2 hours straight. I'm like, man, I wish I could sing for like if I had the confidence to just go on and sing for everybody
Hmm.
2 hours straight of just hymns. That'd be hard to do,
Hmm.
to be honest.
That's the thing. Like I definitely believe in God and everything, but the idea of writing music to sing about what I believe and stuff like that, it's just I've really not done a whole lot of that. And I think it takes a very courageous person to do that. Or it's just not something that I've worked up to just yet, but I would like to. You know.
Well, and somebody like myself who I'm no longer I have no longer considered myself a Christian, but I
Mm.
believe in a higher power. I don't believe that there's no such thing as a higher power. But
Mhm.
when I went to church when I was younger, it was great. Like the feeling of singing with everybody in a choir or in a group, like it really feels kind of good. Like
Mm.
you hear everybody else's voices shining through, and but to do it individually, that's where the guts come in. Like
Mm.
it's hard when you don't have those backups to fall back on. Mud
I
Rabbit, welcome in.
I don't mean to like criticize what people are doing either, but I do think a lot of that stuff is basically cringy as well, and I wouldn't want to be part of
Well,
like
doesn't I mean by the Bible's own definition, doesn't it borderline a little bit on idol worship?
maybe yeah, that's could be why I don't do it. There's also the peddling the word of God thing, which I'm not very fond of, because sometimes people that like trying to turn like Christian music into a business and stuff like that. I just think that people really shouldn't do that.
Oh,
So,
you got your own song too, Brett, that you're working on? Nice. I wrote one of my own songs. Good
but
job,
I
man.
don't know what
Good to hear.
if that's not what you're doing it for, then that's cool. So,
Everybody's saying hi in the chat. All right. Well, glad you're doing well,
hi
Mud Rabbit. Nice to see
everybody.
you guys again.
Hi everybody. How y'all doing?
Howdy, y'all. How you doing?
I don't really have any semblance of a Texas accent, actually.
You
Even
don't
though
think
I
so?
do have it. No, I don't think so. I mean, even though I do have a residence in Texas, but um, I don't think I sound like a Texan at
No,
all.
I don't think you do. I think you got that New York, Boston. Uh,
Pennsylvania, maybe a little.
well, because I don't. Well, maybe Pennsylvania. I could see Massachusetts, but it's
Mm,
basically that northern coastal voice. Well,
that
because people
northern.
tell me I have a Chicago accent, but
Mm,
I don't know what a Chicago accent sounds like. To be honest,
mm.
I mean,
I think you do a little bit, yeah, for sure.
people say they notice it,
Hmm.
but I mean, I grew up. Well, I didn't grow up there. My girlfriend said I don't notice it because I'm not from here, or because I'm from here and I'm a butthole. But I was just saying, like, if I was to come across somebody that just moved to Chicagoland area, like I couldn't tell that they don't sound like everybody else.
Mm. You would probably notice. I think if somebody were to talk to me walking down the streets of Chicago, they'd be like, "You're not from here, are you?" And I'd be like, "No." How'd you guess?
Because you're reading all the street signs.
Just show me where the Irish bar is. We'll be fine.
Right. How did you know I wasn't from Chicago? Because you asked me for directions. Huh. Hey, Ball Steve. How you doing, man? Long time no see. Eight Grace. Wow, got a bunch of people stopping in. I appreciate everybody stopping in.
Um, I think I have a little bit of like a Dublin and Canadian accent too, like Dublin, Ireland, and like Calgary, Canada accent, because I've lived in both places as well, you know. So it's like this weird mixture of like Northeast USA, a tiny bit of Florida, and both of those places. And like it's weird because when I'm in not in Canada, but like when I'm in Dublin specifically, people ask me for directions. Like tourists ask me for directions, and I'm like, "What? Around where? New York? I don't know." um, I can show you where Boylston Street is in the Back Bay in Boston. I could show you all around there, but I don't know nothing about Dublin, man.
Oh yeah, I would get lost in Boston, but I wouldn't get lost in Chicago.
Mm,
I mean, that's anybody. Like you
mm,
start going to some of those big cities that you've never been to before, you're bound to get lost.
mm.
Uh, cheers, balls deep. So he's having some Irish whiskey tonight. Cheers
Oh,
to you,
wonderful.
Jameson. I'm having a little bit of rum tonight. Terry said, by the way, I recently learned that the locker that I get my hamburgers from is officially closing next week. Is
Mm.
the WEF winning? I really don't want to eat bugs. What's the WEF?
Right. Oh, World Economic Forum.
Are they
Yeah.
making fake meat again?
Well, those guys I think have been promoting living in pods and eating bugs, but I don't pay this stuff attention.
Eric
Um,
says, sounds like Chicago. That's the
Chicago.
Chicago accent? Okay.
How come Obama doesn't have any bit of a Chicago accent?
No, it doesn't have a Chicago accent at all. It just kind of
Not
rambles.
even close. Um, that guy actually has kind of a Boston accent because he did go to school there.
Yeah. I mean, he was just hanging out
Here.
with some crooks in Chicago and made it out clean with the Chicago name.
Oh well. Um,
I'm not a fan of his his going ons in Chicago, being involved in politics, especially around what was going on at the time with like Rod Blagojevich and the other people that were selling seats, and like there was a lot going on in Illinois at the time. And I happened to be interested in politics right around the time it was happening. I was just kind of coming to an age where I could actually vote, and yeah, it was just weird. It was really weird. Happy birthday, Mud Rabbit. And then Eric said Boston with a BAH, like Baba.
How are you? How are you, sweetheart?
Down by the harbor.
That's like
What does the baby drink? He drinks a Baba. Where do you go to get your hair cut? The Baba.
For $5.
Co-host, you look like Bradley Cooper, says Ape Grace. Congratulations, co-host.
Boston's really weird, man. It's like a mix of Los Angeles and like London or Dublin or something. Too. There's also that element of it. It's like I grew up listening to Jane's Addiction and Echo and the Bunnymen. You know what I mean? So it's like that.
Do you know who Bradley Cooper is?
I do, yeah. He's some kind of actor, right?
Dude, he got like, what was it? Like World's Hottest Man in at some point. I'm like, that's quite the compliment over there. If someone tells you like you look like Bradley Cooper, you take a bow. I'm just joking.
Are they talking about? They're talking about me?
Yeah, they're talking about you. They said my co-host looks like Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. Could be worse. Could be D.B. Cooper, I guess. Well, I guess I'll take that as a compliment, but being half Irish, I kind of can't take compliments. It's just not in my nature. It's like, what are you trying to get out of me? I'm just kidding. Thank you. I appreciate your kind words, if that is really what they are. I'll have to look this Bradley Cooper guy up, though. Let me see.
Let me catch up the chat a little bit. It's gotten away from me. Eric Carthage says, I'm from New York, World Eco Forum, IBEX. Says Balls Deep.
New York.
What is that? Terraform Maris? Anyone? I don't know what that means. Terpsy horror? Mars?
Okay. Well, Bradley and I are about the same age, and he's from Pennsylvania. I've spent a lot of time living in Pennsylvania. My wife is from there. My daughter's from there. So maybe it's just the age and environmental factors that cause me to look similar to this person, or this person to look similar to me. Could be all it is. A driver's license says Pennsylvania on it too. So
Bradley Cooper is definitely a compliment. He said Southern over movie over and over. One of the best movies. I liked it. I liked him in Limitless. They gave him a pill that made his vision better, his hearing better, and but it amplified it. And basically, he had to learn to control it so that it wasn't out of sync. You weren't hearing things a block away that you didn't need to hear when you're focused on the person right in front of you. So took some control to be able to use all of the features that this drug gave him. But then whenever you were off the drug, it was like taking an ice cream scoop out of your brain during the detox, to get it out of your system. Yeah, it's an interesting movie. It's one of my favorite Bradley Cooper movies.
Yeah. You've seen that? Have you seen that? My wife just told me from over there that we've seen that, but I don't remember.
Yeah, Limitless is a good one. They also have a TV series based on it now, where Bradley Cooper makes an appearance. That's how much it was a hit that they even sank some money into making a TV series out of a movie.
I've been watching that series, La Brea. Are you familiar with that?
What is it?
It's a series named La Brea, after the La Brea Targets in Los Angeles.
You're breaking up a little bit. What's it
Oh,
called?
it's I've been watching a series called La Brea.
Okay, so I've seen parts of it. I
Hmm.
think I saw the opening episode. Is that when the hole opens up in the middle of like downtown and some
Yeah,
like bees fly out of it? Some people fall into the hole and they're in like a Jurassic type time.
yeah,
Yeah, that looks very very good.
yeah. It's very thought provoking because considering what we've been talking about, which is time travel, it kind of um, really introduces some of the principles of the scientific principles of time travel to the general public, which I think is kind of fascinating, actually. Um,
Yeah, I watched the opening scene when they're like hanging out and they're kind of like gathering together as a group and the people that fell through the hole and they're
mm,
like making a collective of like who's all there and then like one person's got a gun and then an animal comes and like eats somebody out of a car and I'm like, dude, this is a pretty intense series.
yeah.
Like I think I watched the first two episodes for free and then I had to pay after that so I didn't get to watch it.
Well, the whole thing is online for free. You can find it. Um, so you don't have to.
I'll have to dig around for it, but yeah, I've
Um,
definitely seen the first two episodes, and I was
mhm.
curious to what happens in it. Shout out to the Quite Frankly show. You said he just got suspended from YouTube now. Wow, everybody is getting suspended from YouTube now.
Good job. You
This
must be
is
doing
a
something right.
this is a weird time where I have no strikes on my channel for once. I
Mm,
stopped I stopped doing controversial things as much. I guess I stopped seeking out interviews with controversial people, and it kind of slowed down how much I was getting penalized.
yeah.
But in the last, I don't know, month or so, Aaron Moriarty got taken. His whole channel got taken off of YouTube.
Wow.
Um, sounds like, quite frankly, who's also got a really big show. He does interviews with time travelers and stuff like that as well. And
Mm,
man,
yeah. Well, I don't have any strikes on my YouTube channel, so there's
that's
nothing to
good.
worry about there. To
Got a
my
question from
knowledge,
the
anyway.
chat. Um, is Mr. is Mr. McIntosh a fan of natural law or some other form?
Natural law. Could you elaborate on what that is? Because
We're actually talking about this offline. Like we don't like theoretical science. Like we were talking about like what subjects we liked in school, and I was very much like an applicable science fan. Like I liked chemistry. I liked things that would like I could prove to myself and get a reaction right in front of me or stuff like that when it came to science. But theoretical science didn't interest me as much
mm,
as other stuff. I don't know if that's what you
yeah.
mean
Yeah, so sort
by
of
natural
like
law.
the inherent nature of human beings that we have some sort of eternal that guides us in our everyday actions and how societies are formed and that kind of thing. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess natural law makes sense. I think the Constitution is based on a lot of it is based on natural systems.
Oh
I
yeah,
think,
that's how Balls Deep explained it. He goes, "It's a term that defines an allowable set of actions, justifications, or penal procedures."
hmm, yeah,
So he's thinking of it in a law sense.
yeah, and a lot of that's also obviously in the Bible too. I mean, eye for an eye really is biblical. At least it was in older times, but now we're encouraged to be more forgiving and more love your neighbor, that kind of thing.
Hello, Lee. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry I can't read your comments. It's nice to have you here. Don't have a translator for that. I wish I did. Some appeals to God's law, which I don't really understand.
Hmm.
I don't know what
Well,
God.
it takes time to understand that, for sure. It took me almost 2 years of studying um, to qualify to become a minister, which I did when I was 27. After kind of changing my life around a lot actually. um, so it does take time. And I wasn't like that was my main focus in life at that time. Those couple of years was just my studies. I was still doing music and I still was doing other stuff, but um, I have a good understanding of the Bible at this point, and I can and do teach it to people, but it does definitely take time to understand it. And so I do think that you should probably like try to understand it yourself rather than take somebody's word for it either. I think that's a mistake that people make is they take what other people say about it as truth when you should probably just do the research on your own and make sure that you know what it actually says rather than what someone told you it says. So
We
that's
just got
that's
a
why.
we just got a rough translation in the chat. Thing was saying hi. How are you? She was speaking Chinese, and I wanted to hear a translation before I put it up. Apologies to you. I don't want to put up a inappropriate word or something like that if I don't if I don't know what the word is, you know. So and Balls Deep was answering you. He said it's kind of evillous. I know. Apologies. The powers that be on the global scale can't really seem to come to terms.
Hmm,
And then he said thank you for your answer as well.
hmm.
And then Mud Rabbit said
Yeah,
also it's supposed to get scary for a while. Yeah, I don't know what's
great.
happening on a global scale when it comes to who's in charge, who's making decisions. It's the theme of the show tonight. Thing is or thing. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. Um, basically, I don't know. We're just catching up. This is one of my old guests, and we're just catching up. It's been a while.
Themes.
Let's see. We had a couple more questions come in. These are just kind of funny ones. Why does the guy on the right look like a low budget supervillain? He went from Bradley Cooper to low budget supervillain. And we got an Olaf from the Doctor. Hey Michael, when is the next Rise Against album?
Rise against.
The existing power structure and support grassroots innovatives like the right to repair bill.
Supervillain. Let's see. Maybe Bradley Cooper is secretly a supervillain.
It's possible. It's definitely
It's
possible.
it's probably likely. I mean, he's from Pennsylvania, so he's kind of a swing stater. So he can be a really good guy or a supervillain.
How's it going, Apple? Nice to meet you. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, I guess he could be a supervillain. He'd be a nice evil genius.
Yeah.
The
You know,
sexual charm doesn't hurt.
hmm, Elon Musk's family were from Pennsylvania, some of them. So
And his biggest interests in his inventions are actually weapons. That's
being a
some of
being a
his favorite
supervillain.
things to actually make.
Well, it is a swing state.
What is?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, so speaking of Elon Musk, what do you think about him going back to or moving the headquarters of Tesla back to California?
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I don't mind. I'm a West Texas resident, so he can stay there all he wants. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, my thing was, it sounded like publicly, it sounded like California actually scared him out of uh, their business district, and it sounded like they were putting such restrictions on him for somebody that was trying to help California, and then eventually he left, went to Texas, and then for some reason decided to come back. I wonder if anything changed for
Mm.
the business structure, or if they lightened up on the reins. I guess I don't know.
Well, I think what happened is California is trying to push this thing called an exit tax because plenty of people have set up in California and made a lot of money in the state, and have then taken it out of the state and not, at least not in California's eyes, paid their fair share. At least not in the state government's eyes, I should say, or somebody in the state government. Um, so what they're probably trying to do is prevent Elon Musk from leaving California through
By
tax.
locking into and it probably is a like 5 to 10 year contract. Like, hey, stay here for this long, and we'll give you these kind of tax deductions. Like I know, just in my county alone, I think Facebook and somebody else just got a really big contract. So they built out in my area and built a bunch of what's it called, storage facilities for all of their for their equipment. I think it has to do with what's it called? What are those machines called that store a bunch of data? I can't even think of it.
Servers.
Yeah, they built basically a factory just for wall to wall servers in my
Mm.
area for Facebook, and that was one of the new buildings that just got built out here.
Oh.
The headquarters SpaceX in Hawthorne for a reason. Social is the low key aerospace hub.
Mhm.
Oh, SoCal is the low key aerospace hub. Oh, okay. My bad. Read that wrong, Stevie J.
Yeah, I don't think Texas people really care, about what SpaceX or Elon Musk is doing. It's just, I mean, Texas is a pretty big place, and it's not like the state needs any more. I mean, Elon Musk and all of his businesses are literally less than a drop in the bucket to the state of Texas. So it's kind of like, whatever, man. You can come, you can go. We don't care.
The Space Coast and the Kurd in Texas were just federal government handouts. Hmm. I didn't even know that the federal government was handing out things. Not actually
Yeah.
beneficial things.
Well, the federal government does have interest in uh, companies like his to give him carbon tax credits and this kind of thing
I thought they
to
had to make
push.
those for the carbon tax credits. I thought they just set the standard, and then they could make financial deals with other people that owned carbon credits, and they could make deals where they could purchase said carbon credits from another company and be allowed more credits. I didn't know that the federal government actually gave out access to more federal to more credits for your pollution rate.
Well, I think most of it has to do with furthering a certain agenda that actually, and it's like, as long as the company of that size is promoting an agenda that certain people in Washington want to see furthered, they're going to get breaks. They're going to get financial support. Um, so in that sense, it kind of is like a handout, really, just to kind of toe the line, whether they agree with what the agenda is or not. They're just going along with it, really, just to get financial breaks. And I mean, that's why, for instance, I think probably that Tesla stopped accepting Bitcoin was because Bitcoin is considered, or is being maligned really by people in Washington
I was just
as
going to say, when you gave me that description, I thought we were talking about Capitol Hill and not Elon Musk anymore.
well, yeah, they're both they're hand in hand, but like they're trying to push the idea that Bitcoin is environmentally destructive. So I think that Musk made it so that Tesla stopped accepting Bitcoin so that they wouldn't get penalized for doing so by Washington.
Was Washington penalizing people for accepting Bitcoin?
Um, I
Because
think they would
remember
penalize.
when all this happened? Do you remember when Elon Musk said he was going to make that big purchase of a large amount of Bitcoin, and he kind of
Hmm.
made it public, and then right after that was the crash of Bitcoin?
Mhm. Is that what happened? I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, I mean, timeline wise, I don't know if it's correlation or causality.
Hmm.
I just know that it was interesting that it happened around the same time.
Okay. I don't remember what exactly happened because I wasn't paying attention to that, but um, it does seem like that he probably like Tesla stopped accepting Bitcoin as payment to at least appear to be compliant with a certain agenda that was being pushed through DC, so they can continue to get funding from DC, or at least it breaks. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know any of those people, frankly. But I
Gotcha.
I do have a business degree, so I kind of understand like how
I
people
mean, like
do
when it
things.
comes to some of the things that Elon Musk does, like I
I know a lot
understand
of
some of his business decisions. It's his stuff
people.
outside of business that I don't really understand. Like his business decisions make sense. Like to sell stuff like lame stuff at a crazy price just because of the name. Like I like some of his business strategies because it's like poking fun at society, to be honest. Like that we would pay for like ridiculous prices for something that he would only make a limited stock of just so you'd pay an insane, I mean an insane amount of money for it. Like whether it's his not a flamethrower
Yeah,
things, or if it's the hat company that he started. It's called like the Cool Hat Company or something like that. And they only made like 300 hats, and he sold them for like ridiculous amounts.
yeah.
Oh no, the boring hat company. That was the name of it.
Uh,
God, he had so many like weird ventures like that where just the name alone was such good marketing that you knew it was going to
mm,
be a good business. Like as long as you could get the reach.
yeah. I mean, he's obviously just a satirist. He satires the whole thing, and I think he kind of does push stuff to the limit as far as like what he can get away with a lot of stuff, and he does that on purpose. But um, it's funny, I guess it's funny, but I just wish that he would, especially someone as kind of you know notable of a figure as he be more of something like Bitcoin, because it is going to change things for a lot of people, and I think the more that people who have a voice that a lot of people actually listen to, actually get behind it and support it, the quicker that it's going to help a lot of people. But I think it's unfortunate that he had to go and withdraw the option of, say, buying a Tesla with Bitcoin. That you could have done that a while ago. Now you can't.
Yeah.
But,
That's true.
but in the big picture, I don't think it really matters what Elon Musk thinks about anything. I think he's just a guy, and it doesn't matter. I think uh, Bitcoin is going to change everything anyway.
Well, let
So,
me ask you, since we're talking about Bitcoin again, I
mm,
gotta catch
mhm.
up the chat and tell you what's going on with it because it's kind of funny.
Hmm.
Mud Rabbit was talking about how she was counting pennies, and then Terry said, "If it ain't real copper, they're worthless." Um,
Hmm.
it's almost like this has been happening for years. Like first it was, all right, we're going to start subbing out the silver, we're going to start subbing out the copper, we're going to start subbing out these valuable metals. All right, now we're going to get rid of our gold standard. Now we're going to it's just like
Hmm.
they've slowly been pulling this carpet out, and for some reason they
Yeah.
just I don't know, people just don't seem to notice it.
Yep.
Somebody block Kanye West. Somebody in the chat just said their name was Kanye West, and it said Elon is my biggest op.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Kanye. What a
sorry. Kanye's on the ban list right now.
what a guy. That's all I'm gonna say.
He's an interesting fellow. He is
I I just want to know.
supporting that weird clothing company that started
Hmm.
doing that like fetish clothing line with bears, and he like wore that on the Alex Jones show. I don't know if you saw like Kanye West's last like big interview before he got totally taken off the internet. It was
Okay, I did see that.
it was on Alex Jones, and
Hmm.
he wore this like zip up mask that zipped up in the front, and it looked like
Hmm.
a I don't know, like a like some kind of fetish outfit that this big clothing line was representing, and they had just
Hmm.
released all this information, or just released this ad about teddy bears wearing their clothes. Balenciaga, yeah, Balls Deep got it. It was Balenciaga. I forgot
Hmm.
all about the name of them. I knew it was an in depth name that I wasn't going to be able to pronounce unless I saw it. I was going to guess something and butcher it. But yeah, no, Kanye West is not somebody I usually talk about that much right now with all of his current going ons.
Hmm.
We
I
had quite
just
a
wonder
few
why he
time traveler too.
followed me to Wyoming. That's weird.
Who followed you to Wyoming?
Well, I got a place in Wyoming, and then Kanye West got a place in Wyoming, which is really strange.
I
Like
mean,
Kanye,
some people
if
are
you're
trying
gonna,
to get away from the music industry, and some
hmm,
people are, I don't know, trying to
so,
get away from what's her name, Kim Kardashian. Was that the one he was with? They all have their own reasons for going to Wyoming.
I just hope he wasn't stalking me or something. That's all. I mean, it's like, hey man, I'm just a guy.
Sorry, I'm gonna
It's
catch up
funny,
real
like
quick. This is on topic. S&M
people.
teddy bears was what Balenciaga was selling, and they had kids' clothes and some
Hmm.
weird shit. And then Mother said, "Yeah, we haven't forgotten." Like everybody knew, like everybody stopped buying from Balenciaga after they did this ad. But you had a question come in before that, and it
Hmm.
said, "I enjoy going to estate auctions and finding neat items to invest in. What items should I look to invest in for the long-term future?"
Some Bitcoin.
Nice, easy answer. You won't
That's your
find that
answer.
at an estate sale.
I mean, think about it this way, right? In your lifetime, have things not gotten more digital? Like you've gone away more away from using cash to using digital things to pay for stuff. Do you think it's going to get any less digital in the future? Chances are probably not. It's just going to get more and more digital. So, what's the latest, most efficient form of digital currency? Well, it's Bitcoin. That's
I'll
obvious.
do you one better. I'll do you
Hmm.
one better. So if the US currency is eventually going to become obsolete, then I
Hmm.
would go with misprints of US currency because Mud Rabbit said copper pennies. And I said, all right, well, what's one up of a copper penny is a misprint. And if you have a misprint from a rare mint, then they're worth even more. So I'm gonna have to go with misprints of U.S. currency because the value is going to go up over time, especially if the U.S. currency is obsolete.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you can find them, maybe.
Yeah,
You
they're
don't know.
already hard to find.
It's possible, but I mean, think about this. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins made, and you can misprint the US dollar a zillion times.
True. I mean, we're already doing that,
Yeah.
printing more with the backing of I don't know, false streams and banks.
So it's just going to become more and more rare. Even if you can only get a fraction of a Bitcoin, it's still going to be worth more and more over time. And it it really doesn't matter how much negative talk there is about it. It's still going to happen, whether people want it to or not. So, but I don't expect anyone to believe me. I hope that later on I don't have to look back at people and say, "Well, I told you so." But I would just like to be able to see people that benefit from it ultimately.
Was for feeling they were sitting in the back corner, both over there in the dark, wanted to make them feel welcome. Oh, well, yeah, no, I appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. I assume a few of them were trolls, but I appreciate everybody that stopped by. I mean, even the new people. Fing, you're always welcome. I mean, I'm glad that you weren't just trying to trick us with a different language that we didn't understand. I appreciate your patience and hanging out and commenting in the chat. Um,
I
well,
can't speak English either, so don't worry.
I haggardly worked my way through it.
Mm.
Currency has been about faith. Some say, yeah, I would say it is. I mean, especially when we pulled out the gold backing.
Mhm. Um, and it's also about still to some extent supply and demand, and the supply for the US dollar is constantly increasing, and the demand is becoming probably less and less. I mean, even what was it? There's been a I was reading a news article, or here my wife was telling me about a news article actually today and showing me stuff about how Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and I think some other countries are in a forming an agreement to drop the US dollar as a form of international currency and start using the Chinese currency instead. So it's like the demand is becoming, it seems to be becoming less. So,
Well, I feel like it's easier to get people in your own country to have faith in the U.S. dollar. Like
yeah.
if you're talking to people in the U.S., but how? Why would any of these outside countries want to have faith in our currency? Like with our debt, like besides our military, that's our currency right now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at our debt to everybody else, besides people that have a smaller military than us, I mean, that's our job. We're the world police. We need to go in and show up when everybody tells us to, because we owe everybody money.
Well, it's more complicated than that, obviously. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's roughly the the idea, anyway. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not going to stop what's going to happen, and that is ultimately the replacement of all fiat currency around the world. It's going to all be replaced with digital currency and digital assets like Bitcoin, and you're going to have certain cryptocurrencies will be successful as well. Ethereum's going to be big still. Um, Ripple, XRP, Stellar,
I
probably
actually
things like
just bought
Loom.
Ethereum the other day because it was on a
Shiba,
rise.
Shiba Inu, I think, is going to be a winner, if you're familiar with that.
I
Um,
think yeah, I do know Shiba Inu, but I
mhm.
think that one's temporary. I really do. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I've always just had this feeling that it was going to be temporary. I hope it's long term. I hope all of these are
Mhm.
long term and people can make money off of these. But uh, I don't know why the Shiba Inu one always seemed like it was going to be short term, but it's held out longer than I've already expected.
Yeah. I think it will do. It will do really well again in the future. It probably not for forever, but at least for a while, you know. But it's other stuff like Luna Classic, Litecoin, probably Dogecoin will be around. I think as far as like the whole world is concerned, you have the whole world can use this stuff, so it's really kind of a no brainer. It you know not everybody has access to the U.S. dollar even. It, not everybody has access to the euro, the pound. It's just it's not available for everybody.
I mean, it's not easily available, but most countries have a way you can transition money.
Mhm.
Uh, might not be readily available to everybody in that area. You might have to travel to go do it, but
Mm.
I mean, everybody does have access to the most point. I would say the majority of society has access if they wanted to go out and transfer their money into something
Mm.
else.
Well, in the West and in the United States certainly, but around the world there are many people who are unbanked. Like they have no bank accounts. They can't
Oh
get
yeah,
bank accounts.
that's true.
Um, so given that, there's just things like Bitcoin fill a need. Like they can have a bank, they can have a bank account, and they can take it you wherever they want. Like you can access Bitcoin all over the world and use it as a currency all over the world. You don't have to transfer it from one bank in one country to another bank in another country if you want
But I
to
mean,
use it.
just like the banking system,
Mm.
Bitcoin would need internet access. I mean, and you could make the same claim like there's a majority of people on the planet that don't have internet access. You know,
Mm.
I mean, until we get to that point where everybody's able to access it, I guess there would still always be limits on what people can access. I mean, yes, the West is going to be more advanced when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
most technology. Same with, I think China's pretty advanced. I wouldn't think that they weren't.
Yeah.
And
Oh, they're more advanced in some ways.
oh yeah, I would always say so.
Mm.
I mean, in a lot of different things.
A
If
lot of
the
Europe
internet is
is quite
there,
advanced.
possibly.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't expect people to believe what I'm saying at all, ever. But I do think that if you were looking to invest in something that, and you wanted to make some profit through investment, Bitcoin is definitely the way to go. And also probably look into some of the cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin isn't really a crypto. It's it's something completely unique. But I think Ethereum will do well for people. Ripple, Stellar, a whole bunch of the other ones. The ones that you know the names of. Monero is a good one. Um, and there'll probably be other ones that come along in the future that we'll use that don't even exist yet. But so,
Barter is good until contract. It's a
hmm,
complicated system with even more complicated oversight slash enforcement. It's probably true. I would like a barter system, but yeah, eventually it would turn into contracts that people were held to represent. It wouldn't just be a straight up trade bartering system.
hmm,
And then CM says, when you become president, will you speak with more enthusiasm? We actually talked about this a little bit earlier, CM, and that's what I was talking about with Michael. Was I was wondering if because I think that has more to do with your personality as a person. I just don't think of you as that person that's standing on standing on a chair screaming, "Hey, look at me!" And I didn't know
Mm.
if that was because of your exposure to people like public, I guess, like being in the spotlight as a youngster. Did it make you kind of seclude more? Because I don't think it's a lack of enthusiasm as much as um, you don't really care if all the attention is on you or not.
No, I don't. And I'm just kind of tired right now anyway, so that's all it is. I think. I mean, I'm a 48-year-old man. I'm tired. I don't know how old
Very
how old,
true.
I don't know how old the person asking that question is, but um, when you get to my age and you've been through stuff that I've been through, you'll be tired too. And I guarantee you'll be more tired than I am now. So, um, but yeah, I just get tired. It's normal when you hit 50, nearly 50. Like, you wake up. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you go, "Oh, yay!" And then half an hour later, you're like falling asleep because you're tired. So
I mean,
it's
and
just the way it is.
that's not even talking time zones. Yeah,
Hmm.
nobody knows where you're at, so it's not like it could be 3 in the morning where you're at. I mean,
Well,
I don't even know, to be honest.
yeah, the way I work is the way I do things is I'm on multiple time zones all the time anyway. So that's another thing. It's like I'm thinking in several time zones, and I have to. It's like it's not like that when you get to my age as well. It's like your thinking is in multiple locations all at once, and you have to be able to keep your mind on a lot of stuff too. So.
I gotta give props to Mud Rabbit on this. She said, "Oh, please, Michael, I wish I was your age again." Mud Rabbit's our Mother Teresa of the chat that
Mm.
likes to arm wrestle people.
Oh, please. Plus, I grew up in the snow as well, so that makes you older. I don't know if you guys realize that either, but I get I get a lot of people from like warmer climates than New England, and trust me, New England is freezing in the wintertime. It's like you think Chicago area is bad, Boston is much worse because it's
No
farther
way.
north.
No
Oh yeah.
way. But here's one I'll give you.
Mm.
Um, Mud Rabbit is a very warm weather bird. And
Hmm.
yes, I don't think she would do well in Chicago.
Yeah.
I'll be that generous, but there's plenty of Boston people that wouldn't last 1 year in Chicago.
As
And
far as weather,
I would put the same bet on Chicago people. But yeah,
uh,
weather wise, yeah, our winters can be much brutaler than Boston. And that's I mean you could look that up on the internet right now. Just
mm,
amounts of snow, Arctic chills, like
mm.
below freezing weather. I would say that we're highly comparable to that.
Well, it sounds like Boston for sure.
You think so?
Oh yeah, I mean it's probably quite similar, I guess, but I guess we'll have to
Do this. Let's
do
do
some
this.
research and figure out
Coldest place in the United States.
which is worse, Boston or Chicago. We'll have to research that.
I just googled coldest place in the United States. Oh, well, that doesn't count. They put Alaska on here. Fairbanks, Alaska
Well, yeah,
is in first place.
that's obvious.
That makes sense. What is the
Okay,
coldest
so
city in the lower 48 states? What are the top five coldest states in the United States? Ooh, okay. Here we go. Alaska, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wyoming, Montana, Maine, Wisconsin, Idaho, Vermont, and Michigan. Illinois and Massachusetts are not on that list.
hmm,
But Wisconsin and Michigan are. I feel close enough.
I, I'm looking at a lot of different Google search results, and I find that depends on the person writing, but some people say Boston's worse, some people say Chicago's worse. So it's kind of probably neck and neck on a bunch of stuff, you know. But I don't know either way. I mean, I feel bad for Chicago people as well then, because
Oh yeah,
Boston,
no, I feel bad for Boston people too. If you guys really
yeah,
do have bad ones, I mean, nobody wants that.
high suicide rate. You know, it's like that's I can't live up there anymore. It's just I'm a transplant now.
I think the suicide rate, like what. So have you ever seen some of the studies that we do with rats when it comes to large populations and comparing it to humans?
No.
Um, we've noticed that there seems to be a lot more violence, um, bizarre activity, and stuff like that when you put groups of rats in larger populations. And the
No.
same thing seems to happen with humans. Like when you have a population like Chicago in such a small area, you're bound to have more crime. You're bound to have more insanity. You're bound to have more violence. Like all of this stuff correlates with the mass population in a small area. So
Hmm.
Boston, being as big as it is, would have that same issue. I mean, it's all based on size and how many people you have stacked on top of each other, to be honest, and how they have to coexist.
Yeah, the good thing about the city of Boston is that it's easy to get out of, and there's a lot of space around it that is fairly like unoccupied.
That scares me when
Just,
you say it. Like, so this is something I was trying to explain to people that don't live in Illinois.
mm,
Um, when people were robbing downtown Chicago, you know what they did?
yeah,
They raised the bridges. So if anybody was there from outside of Chicago, they were now stuck in Chicago. There was no
mm,
leaving. They raised the bridges, and everybody in Chicago could no longer leave. And you are not going to get in and out of that town if they raise the
mm,
bridges on you. Like they can
mm,
lock down the whole town. It's it's insane to me. Like
yeah,
somewhere in Florida's like that too. There's only a tunnel to get out where I was at, and I was like, oh my god, could you imagine everybody in the state trying to leave through this tunnel at the same time? I'm like, I couldn't. I'd feel trapped. That's the same reason I
yeah,
would never move out to Chicago. I'd feel trapped. I wouldn't like to know that I couldn't get away if I wanted to.
yeah. I
Especially on
wouldn't
foot.
either. I didn't ever really have that problem growing up, but I mean, in an hour you can be in the wilderness of New Hampshire. You know what I mean? And there's just nothing around, so that's kind of nice.
Oh, and Mud Rabbit, that's the rarity of the Midwest. So we have this same um, humidity levels basically year round. So our winters and our summers are both on the extreme. I've
Mm.
been in Florida in the peaks of the summer. I mean, I've definitely been out there in the hottest times of the year and in the coldest times of the year. And in the coldest times of the year, the people in Florida, I laugh at them because they're wearing sweaters in 75-degree weather.
Yeah. You get people from places like that saying, "Oh, you're so young. You're just a kid." It's like, no, man. I grew up in the most northerly, cold, freezing, bitter place that you can possibly think of. You have no clue.
Right. Like idiot kids in the Midwest. I don't know if this is a Midwest thing or if it happens all over the place and it's just a kid thing. They
Mm,
love to wear shorts and t-shirts on the coldest days of the year. And you'll see them
mm,
standing at the bus stop with their arms all red, legs all red. They're just standing in the cold, shorts and a t-shirt for some reason. And I don't know
mm,
if it's a kid thing or what it is. And then the kids in the summer, they'll have on a hoodie and like a beanie cap, like just the warmest weather stuff in the middle of the summer. I'm like, I wonder if this is a kid thing or if this is just, does everybody do this? I see it a lot in the Midwest.
um, I don't know why I would be enthusiastic about being president, but either. So, like, if Someone's saying can I be more enthusiastic when I become president? If anything, I'll probably be less enthusiastic because
See, talk about a job that would make you more depressed.
give me a job that I actually like, and then I might be
Yeah.
then I might be enthusiastic. Like a job that I actually want to do, then maybe I'll have some enthusiasm. But president, it's not something I want to do. So, like, still, if I end up in that position, I'm gonna probably not enjoy it very much. But at least I'll do a good job, and you guys can be sure of that if it happens.
It's
But
30 degrees where he's at right now. Oh, beautiful 30 right now. No need for heat. Yeah, no, I like the cold, but you definitely have to dress for it and be prepared. You can't buy a jacket in Florida and bring it to the Midwest. They don't even make them out of the same stuff. It's not even comparable.
Florida.
So I think
Well,
what was that?
sorry, it's 76 degrees in Texas right now. So
Nice.
yeah.
I think we got up to 42 today. Yeah, it was a scorching day.
It's 71 in West Texas.
Terry was asking me about something earlier from my area. Yeah, we're supposed to possibly get 8 inches of snow between 5 in the morning and noon tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm gonna call BS on this one because I don't really trust the weathermen that much, and I can usually tell when they're getting it wrong. Like if you read a farmer's almanac for your area for the last like 5 years, you have a pretty good idea of what the precipitation levels are going to be, even probably more accurate than a weatherman. And it's strange. Or you can actually look at the European um, what's it called map that they have for following weather patterns, and they're way more accurate than the U.S. as well. I don't know. The U.S. one's just garbage.
I'm in the part of Texas that's mountain time.
Mountain time?
Yeah, you know how well there's the time there's
Yeah, the time zones. Yeah.
the very western part of Texas, like this much of it is in the same time zone as New Mexico.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so,
I thought it was at the border. I didn't know where it fell. The ley lines for the time zones.
yeah. So I'm basically in the suburbs of Roswell, New Mexico.
Why would you want to live out there?
Aliens, dude.
Aliens. Gotta do the hair at the same time. Aliens.
Dude. Aliens.
So, what are you up to? What are you up to tomorrow evening?
I'm gonna go hunt for UFOs.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Are you messing with me right now? Are you really going to hunt for UFOs?
Well, I mean, you don't really have to hunt for them. They kind of just show up. They're everywhere. Like if you go, I mean, you're in the desert, for instance. That's where the Roswell craft crashed, was right in the desert.
My question was, if you're available tomorrow, because you told me, or did you say Sunday? I don't remember if you said Saturday or Sunday. But if you are available,
well, it's flexible.
I want to do a part 2 with you and do one more on the other side of what we usually talk about. Like today, we've been talking about music and a little bit of politics. I would like to talk about your full story and get it kind of presented all in one interview if we can. Because you said you wanted to rehash some of these things and kind of bring them home and make sure everybody knew that. I mean, as long as I've talked to you, your story's been consistent. And I have a feeling it's going to be the exact same thing when we talk about it next time. I know that you don't really you don't change your story up very much. So if you would like to, either tomorrow night or later in the week, we can set up a part 2 and kind of knock that out as well.
Sure. I mean, the thing about being honest is that you don't have to remember what, like, your story. It's just being honest.
Yeah, you just say it. It's easier.
I'm not changing my story because there isn't a story. It's just me being honest. It's not like I have to. It's not like I'm trying to remember something to say about everything. I'm just trying my best to remember the truth about things that actually happened, and that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to remember and recite the same story and add details to it and then get it right over all the times you've said it. Like, unless it just happened to you and you didn't have to rethink about it. Like that was one of the things that draw me to a lot of the people in this. I don't know. I don't like calling it the conspiracy theory community, but the community of people that are kind of on the fringes of the regular things talked about, and
Mm,
the people that are consistent with their stuff are the people that I like to talk to the most. The people that spend their time talking about others, or just I don't know, deflecting from anything that would have to do with them telling their story. Um,
mm,
I lose interest really quick. Like there's something about it that it's like, oh, I kind of feel like you're putting this together. You're trying
mm.
to put on a show for me, and like I don't get that from you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Well,
the
I'm not.
monotone and lack of enthusiasm that everybody's speaking of. But it was one person. I'm just joking.
Well,
But
I'm just tired.
you've just never been somebody that has this kind of impression before.
My coffee just wore off, and
Oh
so
yeah.
that's all it is. Yeah. And when you're 48, that's what happens. You just go
Why are you
if you're not
drinking coffee so late?
to keep me awake.
Gosh. All right. Well, I will give you some time to get some rest. I appreciate you coming on tonight, man. I
Okay.
uh we'll talk offline and set something up soon and try to figure out what we want to do next here.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, anytime, man. I
Yep.
will talk to you soon. And thank you
Yep. Take
everybody for
care.
tuning in.
Oh, and Michael Phillips says hi.
Michael Phillips really did say hi.
Hmm.
Gosh, why does he do this to me? I didn't already know. He already. Oh, I thought you ended because it looked like it froze. I'm like, gosh darn it. Oh, and he would. Son of a bitch. All right, so I'm breaking kayfabe for this. So Michael Phillips is possibly going to be doing an interview here in the near future. I've been working on trying to get involved with said interview. Um, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So I'll keep everybody posted. We're gonna do time travel, alien type show, alien speak, alien beings, and type show next time we come on, me and Michael. And yeah, so tune in, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your evening.